Without further ado, I'm going to introduce today's guest speaker, Mr. Brent Boswell. Brent is a friend and he is a Snow College alum, which means he understands a lot of what you're going through. He's been in maybe not the exact seat where you're sitting right now, but he understands what it's like to be a student at Snow College. And I think that gives him a lot of empathy, and it also gives, I hope that you listen to what he has to say today. Brent Boswell is the Director of Economic Development for Juab County, Utah. Anybody from Juab in the room? Raise it high. All right, we got a few. Since 2012, he's worked with hundreds of businesses, helping entrepreneurs navigate government processes, strengthen local companies, and explore opportunities for growth. A Snow College alum and multiple recipient of the True Badger Award, Brent. You're not supposed to publish that. That's not supposed to be. Brent is also the author of 4 novels and a published playwright. He enjoys combining real-world business experience with creativity and storytelling to inspire and encourage the next generation of entrepreneurs. So please welcome Brent Boswell.
I'm glad to be here. Snow College alumni. He said, just think what was going on in your mind when you were here. And I thought about it. I'm like, no, I hope they're thinking better than I did. My problem with Snow is that, well, even Utah State, the classes got in the way of my education. Is that any of you guys feel that way? I like to hunt and stuff, especially back when there were things to hunt, and Snow was a haven for that. And there were no parents, and they don't take roll. And my first class was Computer 101. And in those days, we didn't have computers in my high school. So when I got this, we had them, but you couldn't, they just used them like typewriters. You couldn't turn them on or off. They just said, don't put whiteout on the screen and use it like a typewriter. So I get here, Computer 101, 7:30 in the morning. My mother set my schedule up, obviously. And I get there, and the professor comes in late, and he's like, this is outrageous. He's like, a man of my tenure, and I'm teaching this stupid 101 class. You guys all learned this in high school. And he goes, it's early in the morning, and he goes, I'm going to take a vote right now. What do you say we just cancel class every day, use it for lab time, because no one had computers at their house. No, I had one rich friend, but no one else had computers. And so he goes, come here during class, do the assignments. As long as you're here for the test, I don't care. All in favor say aye. Everyone says aye. He gets his stuff and leaves, right? My tuition dollars hard at work. And everybody's like, oh, okay. Well, I'm sitting in front of a computer that's off, and Mrs. Newell, the type teacher with 4 computers in the back of my classroom at Juab High School, had never let us turn them on. So people are going to work, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, look, I hit it a couple times, it doesn't come on. So I leave and go deer hunting for a semester. Me and a kid from Richfield, we'd see each other on the mountain. It's got my first F in college. So I'm here to tell you, you can survive some bad grades, especially if you're going to be entrepreneurs, and you'll be a part of your awesome story that you've flunked out of college. But I'm not supposed to say that. Take that off of the recorder. Yeah. So the other thing, too, before we get started is Russ would point out to me, I'm like, they're all here to start businesses. He goes, nah, some, but he goes, some just know it's going to be an easy A, and so they're taking this class. So I don't know, maybe I'm not supposed to tell that either, but it looks like if you remember the word autumn and comment on social media a couple times, you got it. And so we realize that too. Hopefully though, even though I've always been entrepreneurial, even as a little kid, I didn't go through Snow thinking, I'll be an entrepreneur. In fact, a group that I was a part of is part of why they have the entrepreneur programs here, because economic development directors in the region were like, we got to be teaching entrepreneurship more. And so we help really push Snow towards getting some kind of entrepreneur degrees and stuff. But for all that, let's have everybody stand up. Move your laptop, whatever. It's a game, okay? We never had to put our laptops aside when I was at Snow because, they didn't exist. Okay, you're going to need both hands, so set your precious devices down. Okay, set them down for a minute because you're going to need both hands to play this game. And with the broom, I honestly can't see. Okay, this dude back there in the gray shirt that's really tall. Yeah, you. Come on up here. Yep. Because I need somebody tall to be able to see what people are doing during this game because I can't see over some of these guys. Okay, what's your name, man? Justin? I don't remember that, but hey, Justin. Okay, so we're going to play a game called Heads or Tails. You ever played Heads or Tails where you call the coin? Okay, second thing, does anybody have a quarter? Do any of your generation know what quarters are? They're money. You don't swipe them, you don't tap them. I got a quarter because I knew none of you guys would have a quarter. You got it. Wow, the Juab guy's got a quarter. Let's use it. Okay, and he's got on a white shirt and tie. Way to look sharp, dude. I almost wore a tie. My boss was like, "Do you want to borrow one of my snow college ties?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Actually, no, I don't want. I don't want to do that." Nor did I know that it looks like Russ and I are going to Sadie Hawkins, right? If you didn't notice, I wear it better than he does. But we're gonna have pictures after, and he's gonna buy me a milkshake at Mall Shop. And it used to be Fat Jack's Pizza, by the way, not Roy's. They were related. It's a breakoff. But the pizza was so greasy, you'd order it in a cup, and it was freaking awesome. So, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to play heads or tails. This has nothing to do with anything other than it's just a way for me to give away a candy bar. By the way, Feastables, Mr. Beast, right? You guys have made this man a billionaire, right? Your generation. It's crazy. And then somebody come and said, "You care if we put your name on the candy bar?" And he's like, "Nah, give me 5%. I don't care." So we have Feastables. So we're playing for Feastables. What you're going to do to choose is if you think it's going to be heads, put both hands on your head. Think it's going to be tails, both hands on your tail, right? We used to say butt, but we can't say butt anymore. So he's going to flip it. So make your selection, heads or tails. The people around you will know if you're cheating, right? So don't cheat. Make your selection. Okay? Heads or tails. If you're right, you stay standing. If you're wrong, you sit. Last person standing wins the candy bar. Okay? Flip it. Everybody ready? What is it?
Tails.
So heads, sit down. Life, man. 50-50. Okay, you can stay the same or change, but make a vote, heads or tails. Okay? Does that really count as tails? Yeah, both hands down. Okay?
Heads.
Heads. Don't change. Okay. So, he was kind of had his hands in front, which I'm not sure what that was. None of this stuff either, guys. We'll let you stay in, dude. All right? Cheaters sometimes prosper in business. This is a reality, so he's still in. Okay, flip it. Everybody voted. So what are you, dude? Hips? You're saying the coin's on its side? I don't want you don't have to, yeah. Okay, what do we got?
Tail.
Tails. If your hand was on your tail. All right, and then there were 5. By the way, this is symbolism of how your new business venture is going to go. You're all going to fail except for these 5. Okay? Statistically, that's the truth, just so you know. Okay, make a selection. Flip it.
Heads.
Heads. Heads stay standing. Okay, now there were 2. Come on up here real quick. Normally a bigger prize is worth coming up here, but come on up the front. Come up the front so everybody can see. Okay. This is the big moment of truth. Pick your favorites. Okay, heads or tails. You can both do the same if you want. I mean, you're playing against the coin, not each other. Make your selection. Okay, we got a hip and a...
Oh,
Oh, you wait till him to flip it. Oh, to get... Okay. As long as all right, flip it. Yeah. We're going to have a winner. Who is it? Heads. Okay, dude. You can have your choice of any flavor as long as it's almond. There you go. Just take one. Okay. Thanks for helping me. And you can give the... Dude, you're the first loser. Why? Here you go, dude. Okay. There we go. Thanks for the quarter. I cannot believe someone of your generation had coins in your pocket. There is hope for America. Okay. So I'm economic development director for Nephi City, Juab County. That means nothing to you. It meant nothing to me when I was your age. I will tell you, though, that there are some pretty good jobs in government, and some of them actually do like I do, where I get to interact with business. And so it's pretty fun. The hard part, and the part we're going to talk about today, is government and business have to work together, and it's brutal. It's like, I sometimes feel like I'm a marriage counselor for like some 80-year-old Caucasian guy married like a 23-year-old from Zimbabwe, and they have to get along to get together and love each other and actually have offspring, and and then they're trying to work together, and it's not good. It's hard. And I'm in the middle of it, right? Because I work for these guys, but they're paying me, but these guys, if I'm not on their side, they lose and it goes bad. So it's a hard job, but it's been an interesting job. I didn't realize, like on day 3, I was hosting the governor, and no one else in the county could do it. And there I am, just this punk kid with Gary Herbert hanging out, and really all the governors, senators, congressmen, And what's cool about that, more than just like, oh, I get to hang out with the governor, but you get to hear from the horse's mouth what's going on. It's pretty fascinating to see something on the news and then say to the person who was there, what's this about? And you'd be surprised that it's often different. And so as you're doing your entrepreneurial journey, keep in mind there are some government jobs that are pretty cool. And I don't. One of the things about me is like if I'm around famous people, I'm not like small town, like I don't want selfies. But I was with Governor Herbert early on in my career, and it was campaign time, and so one of his staff goes, "Hey, let's get a picture with you and the governor and all that." And there's a couple of us, and I'm like, "No, we don't need a picture. Oh, I'll help his campaign." Okay, so we do it, right? We stand there. I got a picture, my arm around Gary Herbert, and when it's over, I go, "Now, Gary," and I'm calling him Gary, right? Why do I call him Gary? We're not on a first name basis, but I act like I am. I'm like, "Gary," I'm like, "You can't use that picture. If you're going to put it in your published literature for your campaign, got to have my agent sign off on it." And he's like, and I go, "Yeah," I go, "You probably guessed by looking at me, you guys were thinking the same thing. I'm actually a fledgling male underwear model." And I go, "So you got to sign, my agent's got to sign off on it." And he's like, he looks me up and down really slow, which was kind of offensive. And he goes, "How's that working out for you?" And I go, and he's pretty funny. And I go, "Not as good as you might think," but I go, "I'm real close." And I go, "Just scarred my image, And he walked away, and I heard him say, "Don't ever let me have my picture taken with that guy again." And my bosses, which is not true, but he was thinking it. But my bosses were definitely like, you're gonna get so fired. But that's part of what we're gonna talk about later, is these relationships with these kind of people that will help you in your career, and it's so important. So I made some slides. It doesn't mean I'm really gonna follow them. I also have some notes. Okay, why does government matter? In a lot of ways, you could say, oh, it doesn't matter. Government, we have a bad vibe about government. Government's always in our way. But as you go through the business process, no matter what size business you are, you're going to interact with the government. Both the local government, well, not both, 3 times, the local, state, and federal, they're your partner. You think of a business partner that gets some of the money, right? You have business partners. Well, these guys are non-optional business partners who tell you how much of the money they're going to get. And so they can make or break you in so many ways. And so you can't get around it. You can't ignore it. They do have the ability to do bad things to you. And they're everywhere, everything all at once. Is that a movie name? That's what they are. And so you just have to be mindful of them and approach it the right way. That's part of what we're going to talk about today. Just to give you a side note, we have a business in town the family's done some pretty cool stuff, and they've made a lot of money, and they've reached the point where they're, like a lot of them give back, but they only give back based on what their CPA says the IRS will let them write off. These guys aren't like that. They have given so much to the community, $1 million here and there anonymously. And then the best thing they've been doing is they've been buying a lot of land and putting utilities to it so that I can bring businesses. That's a big part of my job. I consult businesses, hundreds of businesses every size, but I also work to bring businesses to our community and help the ones we have grow, right? And so I'm looking for land that could be easy to build a factory on or an office building. And this guy has put up the money and bought the land, put utilities to it. He made a huge difference in our community, creating jobs. And but what's been interesting about him is because he's done this, the government has taken notice, right? And so he's been getting all these awards and grants. And Senator Lee's office called me one day and said, "Hey, the senator's doing lunch for all the senators back in D.C. and he wants the Utah and he wants beef." And I go, "I know a guy." So I called this guy's office up and say, "Hey, Senator Lee wants beef." We talked through it. And as I'm talking to the senator's staff, I'm like, this family would love to go to D.C. and serve this to the senators. And they go, "Well, they can't come in. The senator's lunch is only for senators. There's 50 people, and it's no staff, just these 50 senators." But they go, they can come back, and he'll give them a tour of the House of Representatives, all this stuff. So they go back there, and they end up in the White House, and then they end up in the Oval Office, and it's just freaking awesome, right? And have you been in the Oval Office? No, me neither. I met a president once. It was pretty cool, but to go anyway. So This guy understood the relationship with government, and it's paid him back over and over and over again, right? So just keep in mind that if you make that relationship a good one on any level, there's elements of payback that will help you in your business, whether that be actual like grant money or something, or just you don't want a government really that does favors if it's against the rules. But I don't know if you know this, but some government people go above and beyond the rules to make life hard. They just seem to thrive on it. And if you have the right relationship with them, they will not do that to you. And so that's one thing that this guy has learned. And even next week at the One Utah Summit down in Cedar City, like Kevin Costner is going to be there, and this guy's going to get an award from the governor for what he's done to contribute to the state and our community. So that's part of what matters. There's lots of compliance issues, stuff you got to deal with. We have one business. I've got to be careful because this is being recorded. But there's a business that I'll say it's like a craft store, and the owner would say things like, "Oh, I don't pay taxes, but if they come and audit me, I'm just going to say, what am I supposed to do? I just sell stickers." Right? That doesn't work. And this person, she really thought, well, they won't really do anything. And so I know you're young, you don't know what you're going to do. Most of you don't know. How many of you have a business idea you really think you're going to do? You're really committed to. Okay, handful, third of you. Many of you know that, and some of you don't know that yet, but do know that if you're in any kind of business, you are going to have to find out what the government wants you to do, and you're going to have to do it. Or you need to know the way to change it. And that's part of what we're going to talk about today too. But, there's all kinds of issues, taxes, license permits, stuff like employment for pizza. Like when you're starting out, you buy pizza for people and they come and help you do stuff. That's okay, but that's not, eventually you're going to have to understand financing and IRS rules and all that kind of stuff. And Google it, there's just so much you have to know. And now, especially with AI, there's no reason to not be informed on what the government's going to expect you to do. And so you can't say, I didn't know. You can't say, what am I supposed to do? I just sell stickers, right? I think that lady has turned it around, but if not, if she ever gets audited, boy, they're gonna be all over her. And then what's crazy too is the federal government is often the muscle, the IRS. So then the state government goes, oh, they're getting audited by the IRS and found all this garbage. We better check into them too. And pretty soon, every agency around is seeing you as a target. And so all because she didn't take the time to know that it's not going to work to say, I just sell stickers. Okay, so whatever you're going to do, you're going to have to deal with the government. Now, as a little side note on startups, I have a lot of people come to me and the first thing they say is, I need to get a business license. And I'm like, what are you doing? Well, I'm making spices for barbecue rubs. What are you doing? In my house, or in my tough shed in my backyard. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, no, that's what I'm doing. Like, don't ever say that again because that's illegal. And so for the start, sometimes this is bad for me to say to not go get a business license or not, but I would at least wait till you're really rolling and that you know the idea is going to work. And if you're getting ready to spend some money, like build a building or something or rent a space, then go to the government right before. But oftentimes, most local governments aren't out to get you. I've seen that a little bit. We had a guy that used to work for us that was kind of like that. But for the most part, unless somebody complains about your home business, they're not going to come and shut you down. But if you go in and say, oh, I'm manufacturing this in my shop in the back of my house, if it's not zoned for it, there are certain parts of towns where you're allowed to do certain kind of activities. And if it's not zoned for it, they'll tell you can't do it. And now what are you going to do? So sometimes I do say, while you want to comply, take your time before you approach the government and make sure that you're in compliance first, the Google it part. Make sure you're in compliance first before you go. And if you're not, then I don't know that I would say anything to them until you get up and rolling, And once you say it, you can't take it back. And most city officials will tell you, yeah, we're not going to go get you, but if your neighbors complain because there's 8 cars in front of your house every day and it's like employees and they complain, or you got deliveries coming in and their kid almost got run over by a semi or something, they're going to call and you're going to get shut down. So just know what those things are. Kind of more of the same, no nightclubs or groundless neighborhood. Know your mayor's favorite soda. This is this was a huge part of it too, is the relationships. These folks often have, like, when a cop pulls you over, he or she has discretion, right? They can give you a warning. They'll look at your record, your attitude. I got pulled over. I have never had a ticket in my life, by the way. Doesn't mean I don't speed. I'm just smart enough to know when there's cops around. I had a ZL1 Camaro for a while. That would have got me a ticket, but I got rid of it. But I got pulled over, headed to Richfield one time, and my cruise wasn't working. I'm a big cruise control guy. That's probably why I don't get tickets. I set it a little high, but not too high. I'm buzzing along, and my cruise isn't working, and I keep looking down, I'm like, freak, I'm gonna get a ticket. And here comes a trooper over the hill. I look down, I'm going 88 and a 65, right? I'm toast. So what do? I just pull over. I don't wait for him to tap the brakes, hit his lights, turn around. I just pulled over. And he may not even be going to pull me over, but I pulled over. So he flips around, comes back, turns his lights on while he stopped. And he comes up and he goes, well, I usually ask, do you know why I pulled you over? And he goes, obviously you do, because you pulled over first. But right off the bat, I was in with this guy, right? I mean, I'm the one guy he ever pulled over that just pulled over. And so we're talking, we make a few donut jokes. I tell him that my cruise isn't working, and the light was flashing on my dash because it was having problems. And I go, dude, I've never had a ticket in my life. I'm like, had kind of a bad couple months, hook me up. He goes, I'm gonna go back to my car. He goes, I'm gonna run you, and if it's true, if what you're saying is true, I'm gonna let you go. So he comes back, and I go, great record, huh? I mean, I got pulled over. Well, I won't tell you that story, but the cop flipped my license back at me and it cut me and he let me go because he knew I was going to sue him anyways. But so that was before. This cop was like, he comes back, a great record, huh? He goes, dude, this is the one area on this whole road that I don't have Wi-Fi. And he goes, I can't pull you up. He goes, I can't look. So he goes, I'm going to give you a warning and take your word for it. They gave me a warning. 88 and a 65 is a pretty hefty ticket. And so he just gave me a warning and off I went. But it was all because of the relationship, the know your mayor's favorite soda. That's just part of business success, right? We're not talking about bribes. That kind of stuff will get you in trouble pretty quickly. Even if they take the bribe, they can still get in trouble. But know what they like. Know what is important to them. They're human beings too. A friend of mine was starting a food truck court in a pretty big city, and he bought a bunch of food trucks and was going to make it so everyone could just go there, and then he had space to rent to other food trucks. It was a gold mine. He goes to this city, a pretty big city, and I won't say the name, but it's down in southern Utah with all the golf and the outlet malls and stuff. And so they go, we don't have an ordinance for this. And so they're like, we don't know how to handle this. And they go, would you write an ordinance for us? So he calls me mad. He goes, can you believe that? He goes, they want me to write the ordinance. I go, dude, you're freaking missing it. You got to write the ordinance. I go, you make it customized to what you want to do. And you could maybe even push out your competitors while you're at it. Like, dude, this is a gift. And so he's like, oh yeah, you're right. So he writes the ordinance, turns it in, nothing happens. And then he calls me like, dude, they're still on their desk. I went there, they said it'd be done. And the guy right in front of me, the guy had to pile on his desk and found it like underneath some stuff. And he's all mad. I'm like, no, dude. I go, this is your opportunity. I go, these guys like donuts just like you do. Cookies. I go, every week bring in a treat. Hey, I was just thinking of you guys that brought this treat. How's my application coming? And I'm like, it's not bribery. It's not against the law. It's just you're dealing with human beings on the other side of the desk. There might be a few IRS people out aren't human. I don't know. But for the most part, they're human beings and they respond to the same things you'll respond to. And so in business, it's just part of it. And the bigger the business, the bigger, the more donuts, right? But know what's important to them, and it'll go a long ways away, a long way for you. So state government, they're the ones who really like to tax you, the federal government too. This section is just kind of about just, again, understanding more about what the laws are, what the rules are. And if you go in and like I did with the cop, if you go in advance and say, hey, maybe you're doing something wrong even, it's deal with it. Don't hide from it, don't bury it. Just go in and talk to them about it. A big thing that the state has is grant money. And you guys are too young to remember. There used to be a commercial with a guy in a suit with question marks all over it, and he had a book on grants. And for like $50, and he showed how you can get $5,000 for writing a novel. You can get $2,500 for cleaning your toilet. Like he had all this crazy grant stuff. And I don't know if it was true then, but it's not now. There's very few grants. People call and say, what about businesses owned by women? Do they get grants? I've heard there's a few coming back, but for the most part, most of the grants are gone. But the state still has some grant money. And so, again, you got to find wherever you do business, there's going to be a person like me. Find that person, buy them donuts, get to know them, and find out about these kind of opportunities. And then when the time comes for you to apply for some money to help your business, you're already in. And they'll help you through application because you're buddies. Right? They'll say, don't put that, or you'll get, did you mean that or this? Because if you meant this, you're disqualified. No, I meant that. Good job. And all this is because you have learned that you've got to make government be a resource to you. You have to, that's just a huge part of business. And I'll say too, we don't want to think about that. We did a series of entrepreneur classes that we taught this last year. And we started with startups. The first lesson was, so you got an idea, now what? And we had to talk to the people about just because this is your passion, making quilts out of rabbit fur is your passion, doesn't mean it's a business, doesn't mean you can monetize it. So we talked about that, and then we went and we had an attorney come in, a corporate attorney. He came in and taught us about all these corporation laws, answered questions. He gave away like about $10,000 worth of free legal advice at this thing. And then the next one was an accountant and a banker, and they talked about the laws and rules for accounting and banking practices. We were getting about 20 people, 25 people to each of these classes. Then we do the marketing class, right? It's like 60 people come to the marketing class. And what that means is they think that what makes the cash register ring, that's the part I need to know. And really this other stuff is so important that you get that as a foundation long before you worry about marketing. There's so many other things, but human nature is just the marketing is the fun part, right? That's those awesome commercials that go viral. We all want to do that kind of stuff. But really this other stuff has got to be in place before you even do your marketing, or you're going to find yourself in trouble and the government's going to come take all your money. If you do it wrong, that's what they do. They might even put you in jail. And so even though this isn't the most exciting part of being in a business, it's a huge part. And again, the grants, I'm putting there like Costco samples, right? They're just free. Federal grants oftentimes have a ton of strings attached. We was a part of a group that had some federal money to give out, and they wanted us to give an accounting every 6 months where the stuff was they bought. We had a restaurant buy tables and chairs, and then they ended up buying the plates and spoons and all that stuff. Every 6 months, the federal government made us go in and count their freaking forks and spoons to make sure that some get in the disposal. A couple people are crazy and steal them. I used to hide them in the potted plants at Sizzler for no reason, but I was just a stupid young kid that thought it was funny. But they disappear, but I had to go in and count them, or someone did. And so federal is not necessarily your favorite place to get grant, but the state of Utah has some killer grants you could start looking at right now if you're really thinking about opening a business. They have a lot of resources, even on the governor's website. Start a business right there. And of course, Russ has those kind of resources for you too, but get to know the state government and life will be way better. Federal government, the IRS, they will always find you. And they, if you get in financial trouble, you can declare bankruptcy, but you can't bankrupt out of back taxes. So if you owed IRS $2 million and you owed a bunch of other people a bunch of money, let's declare bankruptcy. You'll declare bankruptcy and the courts may forgive you all the debt except for the IRS. So they're not going anywhere. They know you're never going to get away with it. If you die, they'll take it from your estate. And so it's just important to know what these rules are. Now, I know some people's got in trouble with the IRS. And the one guy realized what we're talking about. The IRS is people too. So he said to a CPA, let's just take this auditor to lunch, see if we can hash this out. And the guy's like, yeah, I got to eat. So they went to lunch and they reduced, they just have leeway like a cop. he owed like tens of thousands of dollars. He ended up owing like $3,800 by the time he took the IRS guy to lunch, and they just become buddies. And the IRS guy, it wasn't illegal, it's just the IRS guy was being a hard nose. He was prosecuting the guy to the maximum amount of the law, but when they become friends, he prosecuted him at the minimum amount. Totally legal. Just if you want to be a jerk with IRS, they'll be a jerk back, and you're going to pay the whole thing. Okay? We had a company in town that the IRS had said that they sent their small business, they sent their employee tax stuff in, and they, you scan it and email it nowadays. And the IRS said you didn't put these 5 W-2s, were not there, and they fined them like 10 grand for each one that they didn't have included. And so this was like 6 or 8 years ago, the IRS told them, you owe us 50 grand. And the guy said, no, I included them. I can look at the bundle that I scanned in and sent to you. It's in there. I looked at the email I sent to you. It's in there. Would you please open your file and you'll see it's in there. And the lady goes, it's not my job. That's someone else's job. My job is to get you to pay the money. Yeah, but you have a computer right there. Just tap it, open it up. And look, this one say some of them aren't human, right? Sorry, they're human. Okay. They're human. They're people too. We should not do harm to them. I know I'm not that big of an influence on you, but don't go do something bad at the IRS because I said that. They're totally human. They're totally American, and we're all brothers and sisters, and we love them. But sometimes they don't act like they're human. So this guy wants to pay it, and then he goes, okay, fine. I'm selling my business. The guy won't buy it till I get this cleared up. I'll write you a check for 50 grand right now. What did the lady say? I'm not the cashier. This guy drove all the way up to Ogden to meet with these guys. I'm not the cashier. Well, you're saying I can't just write you a check? No, you'll have to set up another appointment with Sandy down the hall, and she, hey, Jimmy, 3 months to get this appointment. Yeah, it'll take, anyways, nuts, right? So he comes to tell me about it, and so part of my network, even as small government, using the bigger government to network, every congressman, every congresswoman, every senator, every governor has a staff. Their job is to go out and hang out with the people and learn what's going on. So I learned that early on and got to where I'm friends with them, right? So I call up a lady that's a really good friend of mine that works for Congressman Owens. I tell her what's going on. She goes, oh, we hate it when the IRS does this to people. So they have an IRS guy that worked for the congressman who understands how the IRS works. So he calls the company. He says, send me everything you've ever sent IRS in the last 10 years. Give it to me. And they sent it all in. That guy started going over it, started calling the IRS. Pretty soon he gets a letter from the IRS saying it's down to 25 grand. And a couple weeks later, he gets another letter saying it's zero. Now, it wasn't, they didn't say we think you're guilty, but you told on us to the congressman, and so we're letting you off. They looked and realized that they were the ones at fault, that he really did send those W-2s. They never did admit that either, though. They just sent him a thing saying your balance is zero. And just like that, the guy made 50 grand, and he fought it for years. But until I helped him understand that there's parts of the government that work for you, then he was able to get that 50 grand off. He sold the business and was able to retire. And there's something like that for any trouble that you have. There are parts of the government. Russ and I work for the government, and we care about you guys. I put a lot. I just hope I can say something that will help these kids because I care about my job. I care about the people I help. I get offered other jobs pretty regularly, and I think, I've got all these businesses. I'm helping them expand. What will they do if I leave? Because they're really good at making their business, but they suck at taking down ground and building a building. They don't know how to do it. Can I say suck? Is that okay?
It's okay.
So twice now. So and so we care about you. And there's other people at other levels of government who care too. And so when you know who they are and become their friend, they can help you. On the federal level, now we're talking about the agencies who want to help you the most are your congressmen and your senators and your governor's office. You vote for these folks, right? And so they send these people out to the different communities. I learned that they like to eat too, just like everyone else. So I say, why don't you come down to my county? I'll take you on a tour of some of the new businesses we have. And we got this awesome pizza buffet place. And it was awesome. It was like $5, and it was a killer buffet, not like Pizza Pie Cafe where it's like complete garbage for $5. It was legit pizzas, with real toppings and everything. So it got to where these guys liked the pizza so well, I would get a phone call from them, and I picture them all sitting around their desk with their feet up, their sleeves rolled up, and they're like, hey, Brent, we're hungry. We want some of that awesome pizza in Nephi. I'm like, do you have a business we can come tour? So then we'll have lunch after. I'm like, yeah, come on down. I'll set you up with the tour. And we have lunch and we have a good time. And they end up, all these groups are always wanting to do stuff in Nephi because I take care of them. I become friends with them. I know their wives. I know when their kids are sick. And then when their boss goes, hey, we got to go down to St. George for this thing. We ought to stop and meet with a couple local businesses along the way. Where should we go? What do they say? Nephi. Let's go to Nephi. They got pizza place that you're going to love. And they come to Nephi. And so we get their bosses in our town a disproportionate amount because of those relationships. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm hoping that you'll see from all this, because otherwise the government stuff is, maybe this is boring anyways, but it's you've got to make those relationships, do it legally, you can do it honest, but there's so much wiggle room and discretion that they can do for you as long as you're a good player, you know? And it makes them look good too. It gets them out of their office, out into the people, and then they have something to tell their boss when they have their weekly coordination meetings or whatever. Okay, small business versus big business. Part of what I'm going to just leave with here is maybe not, I mean, you still have the stuff you've got to do. You still got this interaction with government you've got to form, whether you're big or small, whether you're a startup or you start something that becomes a Fortune 500 company. How many of you here think you're going to be a unicorn? No billionaires? Okay, think bigger, right? $1 million used to be a lot of money. It's not anymore. A unicorn is $1 billion company. We see them a lot in the tech sector. But it doesn't matter whether you're really small, just making cupcakes, or you start something that becomes publicly traded on the stock market. You have to understand this, the way the government works. As a side note for you, if you're thinking of going to work, what's better, a small business or a big business? I was talking to a guy that used to work for a really big company. Now he works for a small company. The big company, he was a finance person, and that's all he did all day, every day, 8 or 10 hours a day. He just went through spreadsheets and numbers. Now he works for a small company who hired him because he knows about spreadsheets and numbers, but he also does all kinds of other marketing for him, and I think he even cleans the toilet sometimes. And he gets, so as you're looking at that, if you decide not to work for yourself, you still need to be entrepreneurial, even if you work for someone else. That's when you'll get raises and promotions too. If you go to your boss and say, hey, I got this great idea, and your boss is like, well, that is a good idea, and then your boss makes more money because of your idea, sometimes that's disheartening. Hopefully your boss will throw you a bone. But entrepreneurship is always in the part of it. But be thinking as you're looking at, you're going to do a big business or small business. That's some of the options with both is if you like to do different things and you get bored easy, you're probably better off working for a smaller company. And you can change around. This is kind of, we kind of been talking along the way, but kind of in recap. But this, one thing, this is not a political statement at all, but Governor Cox has really done a good job with this program he's put on called Disagree Better. And he's saying, hey, we're all in this together. We don't have to agree. We may never agree, but we don't have to be freaking mean about it or hurtful or physically harmful, which we all have a sick feeling in our gut the last few weeks because it's happening more and more in our country at an alarming rate, right? And I think there's a level of fear that you could get shot nowadays that goes back to the Wild West. But even, at least in the Wild West, you had your own gun, Now you don't want, you're kind of half expecting, right? Based on the movies, right? Some guy's gonna come flying out the saloon through the glass, right? You're in those days, you're probably thinking about it. Now it's like, is that firecrackers going off? Or people, it's crazy how this is happening in our society. And so I appreciate how the governor has been talking about, let's tone it down. We don't have to agree. An example I'll share with you of that is a couple weeks ago, I had two experiences, one in this room. Senator John Curtis was here, and he was talking to business leaders. There was a Chamber of Commerce thing. Well, there's about 8 people who had no businesses, but they just come to be mad and angry and yell. And it was crazy. And I sit in the back, and I watch these people. And as a side note, it was interesting because at the end, the senator goes, hey, we disagreed on some stuff, but he goes, you didn't disagree. He goes, I go a place where they throw stuff at us. And he goes, when we have that happen, do we go back to that community? We don't. That community will now miss out on getting to ask us questions because it was dangerous. He goes, you guys, we've disagreed on some stuff. You've been kind of loud. And of course, it was a loud minority, but he goes, he goes, but we got through it. And he goes, I will come back here and listen to you again because of how today went. Everybody clapped except those 8 people. They didn't clap. And I think they thought, well, that's not right. We were hoping to frustrate him and make him mad and never come back. So then the next week, Congressman Owens was in Manti. And they had to call the cops because some people were getting loud and wouldn't stop talking. And he's like, hey, other people here are being respectful. They have questions too. And if you guys keep it up, I have to leave in an hour. These other folks aren't going to ask their questions. And the people were still just loud. And so they went and got a cop. But there was a kid in the audience who had, and I don't even know where you get these anymore, and it's a Bernie Sanders t-shirt. It's a Snow College kid. Someone your age owns a Bernie Sanders t-shirt that goes to Snow College. And he asked a question, and he disagreed with the congressman on the answer, but he asked it respectfully. And the other guy who was loud and boisterous, and he just charged on and was talking over the congressman. At the end of the day, the other guy was there with his friends, and they were all talking about what a good job he did. Well, the Bernie Sanders kid, I look over, and he's talking to the congressman. And I snapped a picture because I'm like, where in Utah does you see some of the Bernie Sanders shirt talking to a Republican congressman? And they talked for like 20 minutes. And so the moral of the story is the loud, boisterous, yelling people that weren't playing by the rules. The congressman didn't hear them just because they yelled loud. Didn't mean he didn't hear them. He has no idea what their problem was. He was stressed, right? But the Bernie Sanders kid got 20 minutes with the United States congressman by himself. I took a picture of it and I sent it to the congressman's staff. I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. So we go outside and your president, Stacey McKiff, was at the meeting. And we go outside and I'm talking to these guys and I said, it's pretty cool. You got this Bernie Sanders t-shirt on, you disagree with him, but you got this time. Well, here comes President McKiff. And I took the picture of the boys and then I go, here, meet Stacey McKiff. Do you know her? They're like, no. And I go, this is your president. This is your college president. So I took a picture and I go, you guys have met some important people today. And Stacey goes, well, Brent, these 2 boys are the most important, the students at Snow. And she means it. That's what's crazy about your president. But so because he was nice and respectful, even in his disagreement, he got his picture with and time with a United States congressman and the president of this school, all because he wasn't a jackwagon. And he got heard. The other people want to be heard, but they didn't get heard. And so as you're going through this process working with the government, there's an opportunity to be kind, to be nice, to treat people the way you want to be treated. And you will be shocked at how far you can go. So many businesses will die because they don't understand this. You have to say, do I want what I want or do I want to be right? The government is stupid. We're dumb. We're dumb. And for me and Russ, who have to bridge the gap between business and government, we see that more than ever. We're dumb. And businesses sometimes, you're greedy, but you're smart enough to figure stuff out, and the government often isn't. So you could go in and be right and still lose. Or you can go in and bring some cookies and make some friends and win, and over time, you can help change the policies, even of the country. So that's all I have for you. I hope it wasn't too terrible. Hopefully one more person wants to come have lunch. So now I got to ask you, we got 1 more minute. How long we got? So do they still have True Badgers here? Mm-hmm. Do you know what a True Badger is? And do they still have the fountain? Or where do you do True Badger at now? The bell tower, okay. Yes, and there used to be a fountain in the quad, and I won't say it's been after 7 years, but if you put dish soap in that fountain, the next morning the entire quad was full of bubbles. We also found out, though, that it makes the water pump for the fountain go dry because bubbles don't cool very well and it ruins it. So they ask you not to do that. So if they still have a fountain, do not do that, but if someone else does, you'll see how funny it is the next morning. Enjoy the rest of your time at Snow. Keep up the good work. Be safe. Thank you.